Top of the morning to you, Optimize Self ninjas and ninjets. Okay, my accent sucks. But anyways, happy belated St. Patrick's Day. Hope you guys had a wonderful day slash weekend. I guess it was part of a weekend. I don't know. I'm terrible with holidays. But what I am good at is hosting the show usually. Forgive me on this introduction. Um, Anyways, for those of you tuning in for the first time, my name is Justin Archer, and I am the host, aka Sensei of the Optimize Self Dojo, and this, the Optimize Self Show, the show that's all about helping you rediscover your health, upgrade your fitness, and optimize your wellness, all while having fun kicking ass through lifestyle design. And basically, those last two words are key there: lifestyle design. Instead of using kind of single factor focused thinking and focusing just on exercise or just on nutrition, we like to kind of take a step back and look at total health as being a cumulative of everything from your breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, exercise, your environment, your mindset, everything. And it's that sum total of all those parts that is the reason that you're in either good health or bad health. And we use certain strategies to manipulate each of those foundations of health, each of those areas of your life, so that you can perform to your optimal self. All right, so if that sounds like something that you are interested in, then you're definitely going to want to stick around. On today's episode, we've got a lot of fun stuff we're going to be talking about. Let's see, Dan is back from episode 21. He's a return questioner. He's got questions about nutrition, lordosis, and how posture relates to strength training and muscular development. Claire requests a posture evaluation to help what she thinks might be swayback, so we'll take a look at that. And Neliith from YouTube shares why breathing is so important. So all that and more coming up on today's show. But before we get to that, let me take this overlay off. Wave howdy do to everyone. There's my co-host for today's show. Oh, is it over there? I can't see where I'm pointing. Over there, there's Carmen. She's the first and I guess only canine member of the Optimize Self Dojo. As Cesar Milan would put it, she is a pack leader. She's leading from behind in the rears right now, but she just came back from a tough, long, grueling walk. So she's just resting up. So she's there more for support than anything else. Before we get started, let me put up a lower third here so you guys know who I am and where to find me. Give me 1 second. I know, we got a better one on the way coming. But until then, you got to deal with my kind of Mickey Mouse, but pretty decent looking lower third right here. So again, I'm Justin Archer, aka the Sensei, and you can drop the it could be just Sensei. All right, it's not like the Facebook, it's just Facebook. And you can find me over at optimizeself.ninja. So with all that said and that out of the way, let's get on to the first topic. Oh, but of course, for those of you that don't know the Optimize Self drinking game, every time I change a topic or address someone new, take a drink of water. Now, this is just water. You might fill yours with something else, especially if it's St. Patrick's Day. But I'm just going to do with water. Helps me stay hydrated. You can join me, helps you stay hydrated, and we can stay hydrated together, right? So cheers. Okay, so let's see. Dan, who is a return questioner from episode 21, he was kind enough to follow up with me and actually accepted my invitation to take the Optimize Self test. So Dan, thank you very much for taking the time and taking the initiative to do that. You're awesome. If you guys are interested to look back at episode 21 and what Dan was asking about, most about lordosis and how it interferes with strength training, muscular development, things like that, I'll link to it in the show notes. So if you're watching this on optimizeself.ninja, just click at the title at the top and that'll open up, depending on your browser settings, a new tab or window where you can view it on YouTube. And under the video in the description area, I'll make sure to put a link to episode 21 in the mention links area. Okay, so let's see, Dan took the Optimize Self test And let's see. His lowest scores on his foundations of health were sleep and stress. Sleep was 3, stress was 5. Everything else was, oh, I guess environment was 5. So stress and environment was tied. Everything else was 6 and above. And on the test, I always ask people, because this is, you know, you're grading yourself in the quality of each of the 7 foundations of your health, as well as environment and mindset. And so I always ask people, you know, how do you know what you know? And by that I mean, you know, I have no reason not to trust Dan or anyone else who grades themselves, but it's what is the ruler, what is the measuring stick you're using to determine, hey, 1 out of 10, 10 being the best, I'm a 9 in breathing, or a 5 in stress, you know, that type of thing. And I get a lot of different answers, so it's interesting, and I learned from it as well. And Dan says, when I ask, how do you know what you know? He says, my body weight, energy levels, overall strength, and how I feel about the way I look. And from that, you know, and exchanging a couple emails back and forth with Dan, I would say that, Dan, it sounds like you're pretty self-aware, which is great. So keep up the good work. But also, I would try to self-quantify your various markers, you know, the foundations, health, breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, exercise, that kind of thing, with a bit more testing, measuring, and tracking. My favorite way to do so, yeah, you can go in a laboratory and they hook you up to all kinds of stuff, but that's kind of time-consuming, cumbersome, and, you know, expensive. But there are a lot of great apps today that, oh my gosh, I wish I would have had at my disposal years ago, you know, 13 plus years ago, when I started trying to figure all this out, because it would have saved me thousands of hours and thousands of dollars, and just a lot of unnecessary time and effort spent trying to figure all this out. So, you know, what I recommend now, I actually have inside as a part of the membership to the Optimize Self Dojo, is something that I refer to as the kick butt list of self-optimization apps. And it's a list of apps, most of which are free. A couple of them cost a few dollars, but are definitely worth the $1, $2, $3 investment in them. That'll help you test, measure, and track each of the foundations of your health. So if you haven't already, you can learn more about that over at optimizeself.ninja. Just scroll down below the button that you clicked on to take the Optimize Self test, and it'll actually describe what is included inside the Optimize Self Dojo, and there'll be a mention of the kick butt list, kick butt list of self-optimization apps. Try to say that 5 times fast. Not right now. Later. So I would definitely recommend checking that out. Let's see. I also asked, you know, is there anything else that you feel, think, believe is contributing to holding you back from being your optimized self? And Dan answered, where is it? Posture, upper body strength, energy levels, ability to gain clean weight. And I would say, yeah, these are all, everything that he mentions are all symptoms of suboptimal sleep, stress, nutrition, and postural alignment. And, you know, by postural alignment, when it comes to strength training, you know, being stronger, is think about it as a geometric leverage, right? We all understand, you know, maybe we're not all, what would you call them? Like, you know, we don't all build buildings. We're not all architects or building designers, but we understand that, you know, certain structures have more strength, like a pyramid, because of its wide base at the bottom and less weight and sway at the top, and everything below it is sturdier. There's certain shapes that, you know, maybe aren't as sturdy. And so if you think about it, during certain lifts, squats and bench presses, it really, a determining factor in how much you can lift is not just the contractile strength of your muscles, but your body's ability to get the joints into certain positions, being able to get you in a certain position so you have the leverage to then engage the popular musculature to do the lift, the press, the pull, or whatever it is you're trying to do. So it is very common when I work with people, or when people, you know, work with someone, excuse me, that was supposed to be muted. There's one of those apps I was talking about. That one is waterlogged, helps keep, remind me to drink water, which I will do after we're done here. Anyways, that was a tangent, but a slightly related tangent. So I was saying is being able to get into certain positions is very important for strength training as well as symmetrical muscular development. So definitely important to keep in mind. You know, I made mention to the the Optimize Self Dojo. And inside of there, and again, you can find out more about this over on optimizeself.ninja, there's modules that I've done, video tutorials that show you step by step how to go about optimizing each of the foundations of your health. And I would definitely recommend you take a look at all of them, but more specifically to you, based on what you fill out in the Optimize Self test, is the optimizing your sleep, stress, and nutrition modules, as well as doing the lordosis routine, which I think I already, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, and if I am, please tell me I am and remind me, but I think I pointed you in the direction of that lordosis routine. So do that once a day for about a week, and that should clear up the majority of the issues that you're dealing with. And then follow it up with the swayback routine if necessary, like I previously mentioned in episode 21 of the show. All right. Let's see, then when I ask on the test, when it comes to your health, fitness, and or wellness, what is the biggest problem or issue that you struggle with or have in the past? Dan says, I still want to gain weight. I've done okay at this since doing the starting strength barbell program, but I've plateaued. For the past few months, I've had acid reflux issues, which has led me to evaluate my overall health and lifestyle. To this, I would mention, I can sympathize with trying to, I think earlier on when Dan said, trying to gain clean weight. You know, it's easy to gain weight, fat, or muscle with fat, but I know he's trying to gain as much muscle as he can with either zero or a minimal amount of fat gain. Well, here's the thing is, as I see people, and by people I also mean myself because I've been there, done that, try to gain weight, especially in strength training and or bodybuilding, is they put on a lot of bloat. Now, some of that could be water retention from supplementing with something like creatine monohydrate, but the other is just because of the immense amount of inflammation in the body, in the muscles, that you're basically creating micro trauma to every time you lift, right? That's the whole point of lifting, is you make little micro tears in the muscle and then they rebuild bigger and stronger. There's a lot of inflammation in the body, and inflammation can be good. It's the triggering mechanism for you to grow bigger and stronger muscles, but that doesn't mean it should be kept under control. You don't want to pour gasoline on a fire, or especially a small controlled fire, right? And what my concern is you also mentioned acid reflux issues. And so this is something I wish I would have known back when I was bodybuilding. I think I compensated for not knowing what I know now with just a lot more time and effort invested, more than I definitely needed to, again. But back then when I was doing that, I didn't know what I know now. I try to put in more strength. I tried harder. I try to put in more time. And if I would have known what I know now, what I would tell myself, and Dan, what I'd recommend you to do, is to use an elimination diet, not as a lifestyle, but as a diagnosis tool to figure out what specifically for you are kind of your kryptonite foods. What is sapping you of your strength and causing these acid reflux problems? Because I guarantee you that acid reflux is just one of the ways that this inflammation, biochemically induced by certain foods, is manifesting itself. It could also be showing up as joint pain. It could also be showing up as low energy levels. You may have certain days in the gym where you feel you just can't lift as much. I don't know if you have any skin issues. So inflammation in the body, especially when it's systemic due to certain foods you eat, can manifest itself in many different ways. What I recommend, and I won't get too deep and wide into this, I have a whole module on inside the dojo under the optimized nutrition module, but I would recommend eliminating 7 of the most common inflammatory foods. And those are gluten, soy, dairy, eggs, corn, peanuts, and sugars / artificial sweeteners. And eliminating those, I'm talking 0. So you really got to be on the lookout. Read the labels, because a lot of those foods, especially gluten, soy, and corn, they sneak that stuff in everywhere. Peanuts too. I found, what was it? I didn't know before I looked at this. There's a lot of ketchups with flour and gluten and stuff, and it's like, why? I don't understand why that needs to be in there, but it is in not all ketchups, but a lot of them. So to read your labels carefully. But what I would recommend is eliminating those 7 foods zero tolerance, not just, oh, maybe a little bite's fine and everything. No, I'm talking zero tolerance for 3 to 4 weeks, and then try reintroducing them one at a time. So for 4 consecutive days out of a week. So let's say you go 3 weeks, zero, none of those foods. And then on week 4, say, okay, I'm going to try reintroducing eggs back in. Because if you're not sensitive to eggs, if you don't have any food intolerances to them, eggs can be very good. There's a lot of nutritional benefits of eggs, assuming you're not sensitive to them. The only way you're going to know, though, is by eliminating them from your diet, allowing your body to heal and replenish itself and stop producing antibodies, assuming it is sensitive to eggs or any of those other foods, and then reintroducing it back in. And with the help of just a food journal, keeping track, you'll be able to quickly tell if your body has a negative reaction to those eggs. And I'm using eggs as an example, could be any one of those 7 foods. And so you reintroduce them for 4 days, just one meal each. So maybe you have like eggs in the morning, just one meal, and you do that for 4 days. The reason being is because a lot of people think like, what did I just eat previously, my last meal? And that's why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. When actually foods can manifest themselves, how you feel, like acid reflux, several days, like 3-4 days earlier. So that's why you go 4 consecutive days afterward, and then you take a 3-day break where again you're taking 0 of anything, and then you reintroduce the next food. Maybe on week 5 you say, okay, I'm gonna try reintroducing peanuts back into my diet and see how I do. And definitely use a food journal. You know, it could be a physical journal, it could be digital, but keep track of how you feel. And the reason being is because usually after 3 or 4 weeks, and let it be known that usually within the first 3-4 days, people usually have some withdrawal symptoms because your body, the antibodies that it produces to combat these foods, these inflammatory foods, it does have withdrawal-like symptoms, as if you were coming off cigarettes or crack or anything like that. So sometimes, you know, people report, oh, yeah, I don't feel so good for the first 3-4 days, and then as it starts to clear their system, they feel better. And by the end of the 3rd, 4th week, they're feeling amazing. And it's when they can get to that optimal level of feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. My brain's working so much better. I have so much more energy, and just, oh my gosh. That then when they introduce a food, they quickly realize, oh my gosh, I'm not 100%. Oh, what did I eat? Let me check my food journal, and they can pinpoint what precisely caused that negative reaction. The other thing you can do if you want kind of give yourself your own second opinion is use what's known as the Coca Pulse test. And you can do this physically, or there's now apps for it. One I like is called Food Sense, and it uses the camera on the back here to take your pulse. Basically, the Coca Pulse test put forth by Dr. Coca, not Coca-Cola, not those guys. Basically, you take your resting heart rate in the morning, and then you take it before a meal, and then 30, 60, and 90-minute increments after a meal, and you see if your heart rate raises past a certain level. It's kind of points towards, yeah, there's most likely something in that last meal that you were sensitive to. Okay, so that's good, I think, to use in conjunction, because it just gives you more data on specifically, what it was, rather than just the food journal. I always like kind of like a secondary, a backup or a secondary amount of data to it's basically like a second opinion, like getting a second opinion from a doctor. The other thing you can do if you want a third opinion is always get a blood test, something like from Leap MRT, where they take your blood, they spin in a centrifuge, they test it against hundreds of different foods, and they'll tell you, oh, here's what you're sensitive to. Still, even if you get that, right, those cost usually between $300-400. If you do that, I still recommend going through the elimination diet process just so you can feel how you feel without those foods. And then it's not to say that you should never have these foods. I'm definitely not as black and white as to tell you what you should and should not have, but I want to help give you the guidelines so you can figure out, how do you feel when you're not on certain foods, and how do you feel when you do have certain foods, and then you can make an educated decision on, hey, if I eat this food, if I have a cupcake or a pastry, not so much worried about the calories, like, oh, this is going to go to my hips or my stomach, but how is this going to make me feel? Like me personally, if I have more than about a bite or two of gluten, especially bread, flour, wheat from America, which is different biochemically than the wheats and flours in Europe. I mean, literally, if you look at it under a microscope, it is significantly different, and how it makes you feel is different. If I have more than a bite or two of that, like if I were to have a whole cookie, traditional cookie, or a whole cupcake, I can feel my cognitive performance slow to a crawl, or for me, what seems like a crawl relative to how I normally feel mentally, for about 48 to 72 hours. And so it's not to say I will never have a traditional cupcake or cookie, but I might have a couple a year, because to me, it's just not worth the sacrifice of not feeling amazing and optimal for the taste that I can get from, hey, give me some sweet potatoes with some olive oil and some cinnamon and nutmeg and stuff on. Those are sweet enough. If I want some sweets, or some dark chocolate, something like that, I can still have sweets and enjoy myself without it negatively affecting me cognitively. Now, that's just one example of how it affects me. It may affect you different. Inflammation, like I said, can manifest itself in many different ways. So yeah, definitely use the elimination diet as a diagnosis tool. Figure out what foods are harming you. Also figure out what foods are replenishing, that are good for you, and fill up on those foods. And by going through elimination diet, you'll figure out what foods to keep away from, which will do away with your acid reflux, but will also help energize you for workouts, as well as getting rid of extra bloating or weight gain in other areas of your body, like your belly or your thighs or your stomach. I know people hold fat in various different reasons, also depending on gender. So, and of course, if you do decide to join the dojo, make sure to check out the Optimizing Your Nutrition module for more on how to properly go about the elimination diet and other things you can do. All right, let's see. Dan also asked, I want to put on good quality weight, continue to get stronger, and improve my posture, all in the context of overall health. In order to gain strength, I think some other aspects of my health have suffered, i.e. the reflux, a bit of stomach fat, and the posture issues. To which I would respond, yes, health must come before fitness. And when you combine the two, you achieve wellness. So it's health, fitness, boom, put the two together, and there's wellness. That's why I developed the Optimized Self system, so that people can enjoy living a pain-free and active life without limitations. Going back to that, health being the foundation, and then building fitness on top of health, and those two combined being wellness. That's why, if you've never heard me explain the Optimized Self system, and it being based on keeping in mind that your body, the human body, is a stimulus response organism in response to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. And a lot of people's best intentions, excuse the helicopter, if anybody asked, I was here all day, okay? I'm just kidding. Dang, I just lost my train of thought. The part about your body will respond to what you do the majority of the time, not your best intentions. A lot of people's best intentions are to, exercise a proper way, or to diet a proper way. And not to say those aren't important parts, but they're not the only part. You are more than just exercise. You are more than just diet. And those are parts of the recipe, not the recipe themselves. And again, think about, what do you do the majority of the time? Well, you breathe more than you exercise, or at least you should be. You breathe while you exercise. Breathing is the most important, right? Then hydration, then sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, exercise, and then you factor in your environment and mindset as well, which are always positively or negatively influencing those 7 foundations health. So that's why I think it's important to kind of take a step back, and instead of trying to solve the problem, kind of if you're shooting a video on your camera, instead of it being zoomed in and people going, what is that? We can't quite make sense of that, is zoom out to see the whole picture, right? That is your life, and go, oh, okay, now I can see, yeah, I got to work here more on maybe my nutrition and my sleep and my stress, rather than just I'm going to exercise, and I'm going to exercise more. I'm going to try hard, and I'm going to do more, because understand that if you haven't addressed the other foundation health, maybe like breathing, hydration, sleep, etc., those, then it's like you may try to exercise more, harder, differently, but if you're trying to accelerate in exercise, you're also having your foot or feet on multiple brakes. You're holding yourself back because you haven't addressed breathing or hydration, sleep, or some of those other foundations of health. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. Let's see. And of course, we already touched upon using the elimination die as a diagnostic tool. And I always ask people on the test, what would you like to see in your inbox from the Optimized Self, from optimizeself.ninja, to which Dan says solutions and realistic solutions that can fit into my busy schedule, to which I would respond, being healthy, fit, and well doesn't necessarily require more time. Sometimes it does, but not necessarily. It really just takes a better understanding of all the parts that add up to the sum total of your well-being. And total health is accumulative. We already touched upon that your body is a stimulus response organism, and that the body responds to stimulus 24/7 without prejudice. So it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. So for example, you can do 30 minutes of corrective exercise per day in an attempt to realign your hips back in between your shoulders and knees. Or you can simply choose to wear a neutral or negative heeled shoe to basically shift the hips back into alignment where they belong. And the latter, the switching your shoes up, it doesn't take any more time. It simply asks your body to adapt to the environment, i.e. the shoes, and the body, being a stimulus response organism, it just responds to it. So to give you a visual, Dan said I could share this photo. I did blur out his face. Let me go to the screen share here. Awesome. So there is Dan here. Yep. And you can see he's got an anterior pelvic tilt, lordosis. His hips are shifted forward. So yeah, you can do exercises to correct this, and I definitely think they're beneficial. But here's another thing you can do. I guarantee you, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but Dan is most likely wearing a positive heeled shoe, meaning that his shoe, if you put your hand in it, the heel is raised significantly higher than the toe box. So a lot of times when I say positive heeled shoe, the first thing that comes to people's mind is high heels and women's high heels. And I always tell guys, hey, don't trick, don't lie to yourself. Guys wear high-heeled shoes too, just not stilettos, and some of the heels like most people think that women wear. This is more of just a lift in the heel. Now, why is that important? Well, for every millimeter, centimeter, inch, whatever measurement you want to use that the heel goes up, it shifts the weight towards the balls of the feet, which shifts the hips forward. So again, you can do exercise to get the hips pulling back this way and get them underneath the shoulders and above the knees and ankles, and get everything back into what's known as dynamic tension, which is a $10 fancy word term for balance of weight front to back. And that's all good and fine, but if you don't change the environment, in this case, in this example, the shoes, if you're always wearing shoes that has your heel above your toes, then you're kind of doing this one step forward, one step, or even two step back thing, because how much time per day are you wearing your shoes? Well, probably more time than you are spending doing postural corrective exercises. So it's hard for the exercises to win over the time spent in shoes that are promoting this anterior shift forward of your hips. So if you were to get a neutral heeled shoe where the heel is on the same level as the toe box, or even a negative heeled shoe where the heel is slightly below the toe box, then that will cause the weight to shift from the toes back towards the heels, and that'll cause the hips to shift posteriorly towards the back. Again, I'm not talking about anterior pelvic tilt. I'm just talking about the shifting of the hips front to back, and it'll help it reposition here, which will also then help the pelvic tilt come undone, the spine realign, and there'll be a lot of kind of side benefits, kind of chain reaction benefits from that. So that's, again, just one example of what I'm referring to. There we go, got back to there. You know, when I talk about treating the body as a unit. All right. So Dan, hopefully you find that helpful. I'll try to remember too in the show notes below to put a couple links to where you can find some minimalistic footwear. Two ones I usually recommend people to is Justin Owens or Owens. I think it's Owens. Justin Owens. I know his first name because it's mine. At birthdayshoes.com, great resource for minimalistic footwear. And at Katie Bauman, she has a list of minimalistic footwear, both kind of spring and summer, men and women. There's some good stuff there as well. But that would help out a lot because I just hate to see people, again, try to put more time and effort into something that doesn't necessarily, the best way of solving it isn't trying harder and doing more. It's actually going, what's caused this from the first place? What are all the pieces that add up to this? And how can we change these little pieces that maybe don't take more time or attention? It's just making a different choice. It's instead of A, it's B. And doing that will add up to, oh, now my posture's back to where it's supposed to be, and I don't have to spend 30 minutes doing postural corrective exercises. Maybe I only have to do 10 minutes. Maybe you don't have to do any. Maybe just changing the shoes are enough. You know, we cross that bridge when we come to it. But again, it's you know, try not to, you know, it's kind of like that, trying to accelerate in a car while your foot's still on the brake. You know, if you really want to go, if you want to accelerate and make progress, got to take your foot off the brake, or in a lot of people's cases, multiple brakes. Their breathing, hydration, sleep, other areas of their life. Can't just add exercise the problem. Wish you could, you know, don't kill the messenger. I just try to understand the body and share with others how it works so that they're not spinning their wheels, just trying harder and trying to do more. So Dan, hopefully that helps clarify some stuff. As far as the next step to take, well, I gave you, I know, a lot to digest. The great thing about these live shows is even though I'm recording them live, you can always go back and watch them again and again, which I recommend you do. Repetition is important for learning anything new. And the other thing would be to you know, join me and the other Optimize Self ninjas and ninjettes as a member of the Optimize Self Dojo. And you can always head over to Optimize Self Dojo and scroll down below the button that you click to take the Optimize Self test and learn all about what's included inside there. Excuse that, I could have sworn I put that thing on mute. Anyways, yeah, check that out, and you know, let me know if you have any questions about it. But I think there's a lot of stuff inside that you would benefit from. You know, a lot of tools, guides, and resources that are included inside the Optimize Self Arsenal, which is housed inside the Optimize Self Dojo. The dojo itself is an accountability / support group, so your fellow ninjas and ninjettes will help hold you accountable, will help give you support. I'm in there too, so you can ask me questions, have ongoing support. We do weekly live trainings every Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. So yeah, there's a lot of great stuff in there, but you can learn more about it over on optimizeself.ninja, and I hope to see you there. All right, Dan, thanks again for taking the test, and hope this has helped, and I look forward to hearing from you again soon. All right, take care. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Before we do, I've definitely got to get some water. I just talked like a quarter, eighth of a cup, something like that out. Okay, excuse me one second. Okay, so Claire sent an email in. She sent it to Justin at thepostureguy.com, and for those of you that watching, a lot of people are still coming to me from thepostureguy.com, which is great. For those of you that don't know, maybe only know me from optimizeself.ninja. thepostureguy.com was my online business venture endeavor, whatever you want to call it, before OptimizeSelf.ninja. I guess you can call OptimizeSelf.ninja the successor to the Posture Guy, but I still leave the site up. I don't really add any more to it, but I leave it up because there's a lot of good, helpful information there. And apparently Claire found some of the stuff helpful there. So she sent out an email with a question, with a request, and let's see what we can do to help Claire. So Claire emails in, says, "Hi there, I found you on YouTube and have started watching some of your tutorials. Would it be okay to email me a posture photo for a second opinion?" Which she did. I think it's possibly swayback posture. Pelvis, hips, knees are forward of plumb line, but shoulders are too, and would really like to know what you think. Kind regards, Claire. So let's pull up the photo, which I have, for privacy reasons, of course, blurred her face. Let me see here. There we go. Make sure you guys can see that. Perfect. Okay, so let's bring that up. And I'll go through what I'm seeing here. So Claire, anyone else watching could benefit from this. You can kind of be the fly on the, I guess this, the virtual wall. So first thing that jumps out to me is the anteriorly shifted pelvis. So that is the hip bone being shifted forward. I also kind of call this the, that Olympic, the skier when they do that long jump, kind of that skier's pose, like they're just getting ready to jump off that big ramp. Excuse me, that wasn't supposed to pop up. There we go. So that's the first thing I noticed, is the anteriorly shifted pelvis, the hips being pushed forward anteriorly. Now, I also notice, and granted, she's wearing dark clothing, but is the anterior pelvic tilt. So that's where the ASIS, otherwise known as the anterior, I just forgot, anterior superior iliac spine, is lower to the ground than the PSIS, the posterior superior iliac spine. So that is the anterior pelvic tilt. There is a bit of sway back going on where the shoulders sit behind the hips. Also, her feet, I can see, are everted. They're not pointing straight ahead. Most likely her knees are. I can't say for sure. Her shoulders are definitely rounded forward. They have been kind of pushed or shoved forward to the front of the socket. And you can even see, even though we can't see her from the front, that if we were, we would be looking at the back of her hands. And ideally, when you look at someone straight on, you should just be able to see the thumb and forefinger, not the back of their hands. And also a bit of cervical flexion. And I know her face is blurred, but if you kind of look from her ear to her nose, or from her chin to like her occipital ridge, you can see it's kind of pointed down. So she's not looking straight at the horizon. She's looking a little below horizon. That's being a little finicky, a little picky on my part. But hey, from 7.5 years of being a posture alignment therapist, I get picky. Cervical flexion, not all that bad, but a little bit going on there. And that's basically what I can tell from this photo. There's possibly more going on. Usually when I do an evaluation of someone's posture, what I request is 4 photos, one from the front, one from the back, and one from either side. I do like that Claire included the plumb line. Thank you for that, Claire. A lot of people don't do that. I can always digitally put it in, but that is very helpful. Thank you. So that's what I can see going on from the side. What I would recommend to do is, like, what's the next step to take, is I would start by referring you to a post I did called "Don't Confuse Hip Flexor Weakness for Tightness." And I'll link to this in the show notes over on YouTube under mention links. So the title is "Don't Confuse Hip Flexor Weakness for Tightness." Again, I'll include the link. I would also recommend you take a look at short and tight versus long and taut athletic posture types. Again, link will be there as well. And then actually, episode 1 of the Optimize Self show at 36 minutes and 22 seconds, I'll make a note of that too in the show notes, I talked quite extensively about lordosis versus swayback. It doesn't look like you have too much lordosis going on, more so swayback than anything, but I think there might be some gems that you would benefit from there as well. So I will make sure to include all those links. Excuse that. I just want to put that on mute. Anyways, I will include all those links over in the show notes under mention links. The other thing that I'll point out is, as important as postural alignment is, remember that it pales in comparison to the 6 other foundations of health, those being breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, and movement, not to mention your environment and mindset, both of which are forever influencing your pain, posture, and performance. Meaning which your body works as a unit, not just biomechanically speaking, not just the bones and joints and musculature, but overall, cognitive, neurologically, biochemically, and then yes, like posture-wise, we just talked about biomechanically as well. So it's important to treat it being your body, treat it as a unit. Posture does not live in a bubble, neither does nutrition or breathing. As a matter of fact, I would say the reason people develop the postures they have is due to what they do most often. It's their habits, whether they're conscious of these habits or not conscious of them. So it is the quality of your breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, as well as other influences like your environment and mindset that all add up to what we see in this photo. So corrective exercises, which you will find in those links to those video posts that I mentioned previously, like don't confuse hip flexor weakness for tightness and some of the others, you should find helpful, and the exercises will help. But it's important to remember that the exercise routines and posture is just one part of it. And quite honestly, as much as I love and can geek out about anatomy and postural corrective exercise and how it works and all of that, I would say that I think the more and more I've learned over the years is I think more and more time and attention should be paid to some of the other foundations of health. I would say in this particular order: breathing, hydration, sleep, nutrition, stress, movement, and then exercise. Because exercise, there's always the results you get from exercise is already going to be predetermined by the quality of those other foundations of health. And I would just hate to see Claire, or anyone else for that matter, try to do more or try harder in exercise when something like suboptimal breathing, hydration, sleep, or some of those other things are holding her or them back. All right. Which would bring me to my final recommendation for a Claire, and that would be to head on over to optimizeself.ninja. Let me take this screen share off here. There we go. You can head over to optimizeself.ninja, and you'll see at the top the logo, the video player, and then big red orange button. I believe it says click here to take the Optimize Self test, ask me a question, and uncover what's holding you back. Click there, put your email in, and a link to the Optimize Self test will be emailed to you. You can fill it out. It takes probably like 3 to 5 minutes. And in doing so, that'll help kind of take you step by step through the foundations of health, where you can kind of give yourself a score 1 to 10, 10 being the best, on how you think you're doing in each of those areas. And I think going through that process will kind of help you self-reflect. And then there's a part in there where you can ask me questions. And I always find it always helps people form better quality, more specific questions. And along with the information that you submit to me, it'll allow me to give you better quality answers. So basically what you're doing is you're helping me help you better. All right. That old saying, help me help you. That's exactly what you would be doing by taking the Optimize Self test. And also, while you're over on optimizeself.ninja, you can check out below that button that you click to take the Optimize Self test. If you scroll a little lower, you'll start to see all the things that are included inside the Optimize Self Dojo, from all the tools, guides, and resources, video modules, the built-in accountability and support group, our weekly live trainings that are every Saturday, 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, all that good stuff. You could find more about, again, just keep scrolling down. And I think that is an amazing resource of information information, not just because of information I put there, but because of the members who have joined. It's a place where we crowdsource knowledge and, more importantly, experience, so that we can learn from one another and overcome whatever it is you, I, or someone else is struggling with, to basically get you from where you are now to where you want to be as quickly and efficiently as possible. So if that sounds like something that you might be interested in, then yeah, definitely check out the Optimize Self Dojo over at optimizeself.ninja. I'm saying a lot of Optimize Self, but that's what happens when you name your website and company after something. You end up saying it a lot. Anyways, Claire, thank you for sending in your email and the picture. I hope that the evaluation helped. And yeah, please follow up with me, take the Optimize Self test. I look forward to answering more of your questions and being of continual service in the future. All right, thanks again. All right, we got one more. Let me grab some water because I'm very thirsty. How's my co-host doing in the background? Carmen, you doing okay? She's stretching. All right. So on to the final question, which is from Neliith. I think I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know if that's just a name or a username, because Neliith submitted a comment on YouTube, and the comment was pertaining to episode 16 of the Optimize Self show, and it was titled Overcoming Depression, Relieving Neck Pain, My Ulterior Motive, and Why Less is More. And the comment that Neliith left here says, and I quote, "Funny you mention the point about breathing. Started stomach breathing a few weeks before this. Then I really noticed how my shoulders were sky high and tense during most of the day. So I started to think about my shoulders and forced myself to relax them and falling down to a correct level. This has made a good impact on my clicking and stiff neck. So thanks for putting extra weight on the fact about breathing. Breathing made me really think about it. Also, I use I don't know if there's a typo, or I think this is correct, a beastie ball for my stiff shoulders, something I recommend for taming the traps. Huge thanks for the answer, Justin." So yeah, I thought this was important to include. There's not so much a question in there, but I wanted to thank Neliith for making this very, very important point about breathing and just how important it is, because suboptimal breathing will always hold you back in other parts of your life, health, fitness, and wellness wise, and it will take away from the other foundations of health. You know, if you're trying to improve your sleep or your nutrition or your exercise, and if you haven't addressed your breathing yet, then, you know, I always tell people, yeah, if you haven't addressed your breathing, just stop what you're doing and do it now. Otherwise, you have no business whatsoever spending any of your time or effort on the other foundations of health. You know, Neliith made mention about, you know, I think kind of to summarize, you know, how the shoulders, their shoulders were tight and stiff, and kind of raised up, and that's because most people don't breathe with the diaphragm. They don't breathe, or let me go this way. They don't breathe east to west from the diaphragm, and as a result of that, their body kicks in their auxiliary breathing muscles up in the chest, neck, and shoulders. Well, the average human takes 22 to 30,000 breaths per day. And, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I hold my stress in certain areas, but one of the more common places is in their traps, right? And their neck and their shoulders and their upper back. Well, think about it. If you're not breathing from your diaphragm, then you gotta compensate for that somehow. Well, that's up here. So, and that's 22 to 30,000 breaths per day. More, I guarantee you, if you have a physically active job or one that you have to talk a lot, or you work out, you're breathing even more. So that's a bare minimum 22 to 30,000 tiny shoulder shrugs you're doing by breathing up here and not down here. You know, that makes a huge difference. If you could, I always tell people, if you can optimize your breathing, get back to diaphragmatic breathing, I don't care what your symptom is, whatever you're struggling with, that's like 30%, maybe even 35% of the problem. Now, I don't like to just stop there, right? We like to go for optimal here. That is, after all, the name of the show. But I don't think 35% is something to scoff at. It's definitely a huge chunk. So I always tell people, yeah, get your breathing under control, address that first. Also, breathing is probably the quickest way to de-stress, to detune your central nervous system. Simply breathing in and out through your nose at a 1 to 2 inhale to exhale ratio has been shown time and time again in various research studies and such to calm your central nervous system. So it's great to do if you're trying to relax. If you feel very anxious or nervous or stressed out, you can do that. If you're trying to prepare for bed, you can do that. Also, breathing very quickly, you can actually give yourself a boost of energy. So if you're very tired, kind of lethargic, you need a boost of energy, but there's no coffee or anything around, simply quick breathing like could actually help wake you up. That actually helps tune, almost like on a dimmer switch, turn up your central nervous system. So yeah, breathing, very important, very powerful, but unfortunately something that gets very commonly overlooked, which is a shame, because I would say it is the most important foundation of your health. It's what we do the majority of the time. You can go quite a long time without exercise and movement and some of these other foundations of health. How long can you go without breathing, right? Now that's maybe extreme because it's saying just, oh, you're breathing, you're not breathing. Hey, Justin, I'm breathing here. But think of all the detrimental kind of symptoms and side effects that's going on if you're not breathing correctly, all right? Because after all, your body's a stimulus response organism, and it's what you do the majority of the time that matters, not your best intentions. So what are you doing the most? Breathing, right? So breathing is what your body's going to respond to the most. Let's see. Oh, and something Neliith made comment to about using a BC ball for stiff shoulders and taming tight traps. I have to ask, Neliith, did you see the special bonus at the very end of episode 21? I put a little something in there. It may have to do with taming tight traps. It may not, I don't know. But let me know, Neliith, if you saw that, and anyone else. I think I kind of give it away there, what it's about. Let me know if you saw it or if you found it helpful. All right. And Neliith, thank you again for the comment. I think a lot of people can learn from it, point out the importance of breathing. If there's anything else I can do to help in the future, please let me know. Probably the best way to do so would be going to optimizeself.ninja, take the Optimize Self test, and after taking that, it'll give me more information so that I can help you better. All right. And yeah, from this comment too, I would also like to invite you to be a part of the Optimize Self Dojo. You can learn more about what's included in there over at optimizeself.ninja. Just scroll down below. There's a logo at the top, video player, button to take the Optimize Self test. Just scroll below that and you'll see everything that's included in the lifetime membership to the Optimize Self Dojo. But from this comment, man, yeah, you got the attitude, and would love to have you as a part of our community. No, better yet, family. So thank you, Neliith, and keep it on, I guess. Anyways, that kind of brings us to an end. I got a little outro here for you, so hang with me just a few more minutes. Before we get to the usual sign-off stuff, quick little something impromptu I wanted to share with you that happened this morning is I tweaked my ankle this morning. Not really quite sure how. I think it was going to walk our foster pup, Carmen, just stepping off a curb wrong. And it wasn't anything bad, so don't feel too bad for me. And really don't feel bad for me because this is something people may think like, are you masochistic or something like that? Anytime, and this has been this way for years, that I ever have any painful, uncomfortable symptom, although I don't enjoy it, a little part of me does, because I think every problem is an opportunity to learn or relearn something. And I always love seeing this develop in people where before they'll come to me and say, Justin, my ankle hurts, my knee hurts, or I have arthritis, or the doctor, said I have diabetes or something like that, and they come from a very fear-based kind of mindset and state of mind, and then to see them develop that as they learn more. Now, if they get some news and they learn they have something or they have some symptom, they go, I already have a head start because I think I know how to deal with this. But if not, I'll ask this question or I'll go down this route. And so for me personally, like this morning, I tweaked my ankle. I was like, oh, okay, this sucks. But hey, whereas before, a lot of people would tweak their ankle and go, oh, I can't do stuff for days, weeks, maybe even months, depending if it's a bad sprain or something. Now I'm like, how quickly can I correct this? And I would say from doing some exercise this morning and some joint kind of joint manipulation work, spent maybe an hour on it, and it's 70, 80% back to normal. And I told my wife I'll go on a walk with them in the evening because it should be back to, if not 100%, like 90% or above by this evening. And so I kind of like that, challenging myself with that. It's kind of exciting. So I know that's weird, but again, I just look at it as, ooh, what a wonderful way to see how quickly can I get out of pain. I don't advise you go out and injure yourself on purpose just to problem solve. Maybe find some friends or family that are already in pain and try to help them. But for me, it's kind of exciting. I love helping others. I like helping myself too. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. And let's see, I would say that about does it for the show. As always, please like this video, share it with someone that you think can benefit from this information. I know they would really appreciate you thinking of them. I would appreciate you, sharing the love, spreading the word. Also subscribe to the Optimize Self Ninja YouTube channel. It's youtube.com/Optimize Self Ninja. If you haven't already, if you're watching this video, you might be watching on YouTube already, just click the subscribe button. If you're watching it on optimizeself.ninja, you can just click on the title at the top, and it'll open up a new tab or window depending on your browser settings, and you can click the subscribe button. That way you can stay up to date with all the recent happenings and going on inside the optimizeself.ninja ecosystem, I guess you refer to it as. And I guess absolutely last but certainly not least, if you haven't checked out already, please check out about the Optimize Self Dojo. We are gradually increasing our numbers, and I'm happy to report it is just a wonderful community. I always encourage people to join because that is where I'm confident that I could share with you the most important things that I have to offer, give you continual support, not just from me, but from the other members. There's the repetition, there's the weekly live trainings, there's the built-in accountability and support. And these are all things that I have found over 13 plus years and spending tens of thousands of hours, spending tens of thousands of dollars, helping thousands and thousands of people, that I have found is imperative if you're going to make, not just go through a diet, not just go through a 4, 8, 12-week program, a 90-day program, but to make health, fitness, and wellness a lifestyle. I think all those things are important, and that's why I put together the Optimize Self Dojo. Granted, I'm biased, but I think even if I wasn't the one who built it, if I saw anybody else putting this together, I would definitely want to be a part of a group like that. There's wonderful people inside. I guess you might say that's even why I did create it, is because I just wanted to have a community of like-minded individuals who consistently strive to be 1% better every day, so that they can be the absolute best version of themselves, so they can lead healthy, happy, fulfilled lives, and go out and inspire and motivate others to be their best version of themselves. I just like being around awesome people. If you're an awesome person, please join me and the other Optimize Self ninjas and ninjets inside the dojo. And with that, I bid you all a farewell, at least until next time on the Optimize Self show. Until then, take care and be a good human.